Welcome to Felony Friday, a presentation of the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, John Odermatt.
Felons, friends, and freedom lovers, welcome back to Felony Friday right here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. Felony Friday is the show where each and every single Friday I focus on exposing injustice in the broken criminal justice system. And today's show, we will be doing exactly that. We will have the same format as last week's show. If you heard my show last week with Mark Claire, we discussed several felonies trending in the news. We played the world-famous Felony Friday exclusive game, Is This a Crime? And Will Anyone Do Time? And today we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be talking about some very important stories, some pretty disturbing stories. We're going to be touching on that terrible story out of Chicago, horrifying story of a couple black teenagers that kidnapped and tortured a white special needs Trump supporter. The video is viral. Everyone's seen it. We'll be talking about that. We are going to talk about a crazy article that I read that compares gun violence in Chicago, actually, to the spread of the flu. And we'll kind of see if that's a valid argument there, a valid study. We'll give our opinion on that. And also, we'll be discussing the story of a judge who swapped freedom for pills and sex. We'll be talking about those three stories and a couple more. You don't want to miss it. Stick around. That's my teaser. And I'm going to be introducing my guest in a minute here. It's none other than Brian McWilliams, and we'll bring Brian on in just a moment here. But first, I want you to take note of the show notes page. I'll have links to all the stories we're going to talk about with some notes on each story. This is episode number 54 of Felony Friday, so that means you can find these show notes at lionsofliberty.com/FF54. And one last note before I intro Brian. Check out igniteliberty.us. Check out the Make Liberty Great Again hats and shirts at igniteliberty.us. We have two different designs, several different types of t-shirts that you can get printed on. Currently, all hats are marked down to just $19.95, and you can still get free shipping on your order. I'm leaving the code open even though the holidays are over. Use promo code HOLIDAY for free shipping on any order of any size. That's ridiculous. So go crazy at igniteliberty.us, and I hope you enjoy today's show. Okay, let's get this party started. My co-host for today is the host of the brand new Electric Liberty Land show right here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. He's a fellow co-founder of Lions of Liberty. He's bald. That's right. Brian McWilliams, welcome back to Felony Friday.
Thank you. Yeah, Electric Liberty and rock it out. By the way, I'm glad you restarted that intro just to mess it up again and call me bald in the new recorded intro. Thanks.
People won't hear the first recorded intro, so they'll have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, I don't care. They can use their imaginations because you can only think how much it sucked if that was the intro that Odie has chosen to use.
That's true. Well, maybe I'll use none of this and record a totally different intro.
And then I'll sound really stupid.
Just take snippets of your voice and just put them in.
Hi, Odie. You did a wonderful job.
So all the kids are talking about this Electric Liberty Land, man. So you excited to have your flagship show on the Lions Liberty podcast?
I'm as excited as somebody who has no time in life to do anything can be about adding one more thing that takes time out of his life to do.
Yeah, well, just wait until you have a kid, and that'll be even more fun.
Oh, God, well, I've tried. I've kidnapped a couple, but God, they die so easily.
Yeah, they keep dying, keep getting away.
So tough. I live right next to this channel, though, and it's been raining a lot, so I just huck them in there, and they just float down. Is it a crime?
All right, let's just move on and start talking about some real crimes.
I like to shock the audience to get them in the mood.
If any cops are listening, Brian is joking.
That is a joke.
I think. I'm not sure. He might not be, but for the purposes of this show, he's joking.
That's right.
But let's talk about some real crimes. You know, we're recording this just so you can see behind the curtain, everyone listening. This is a little bit before the airing of the show, so our facts might not be up to date with what's happened here in this latest viral video of these couple teenagers, these couple black teenagers in Chicago that kidnapped this white special needs mentally challenged student, beat him up. They cut his hair, they cut his scalp, and they kidnapped him for I think 48 hours. It's pretty crazy.
While, yeah.
And they live streamed the entire thing on Facebook. So they did actually charge the kids with they charged them with hate crime, kidnapping, and there was a little bit of controversy back and forth. The talking heads on CNN were saying, well, is this really a hate crime, or is it a hate crime because were they targeting him because he's a Trump supporter? Were they targeting him because he's special needs, or were they targeting him because he's white? And I think everyone's just missing the point here that this is just a completely barbaric act, no matter what the reasons are. I mean, this is terrible for human civilization that these things go on. I mean, it was such a disturbing video. Yeah, what kind of thoughts did you have on this, Brian?
Well, I'll say, you hit on something right there, is that there's no excuse for this action in any way. And, I saw CNN, somebody posted in the Lions of Liberty forum, which anybody here can go join. Just go to Facebook, type in Lions of Liberty forum. And if you're not crazy, we'll add you. But,
boom,
somebody posted this Don Lemon video where he's saying, well, it's not evil because it's not their fault. I'm sure they have very rough upbringings. And you look at these kind of things, they're already making excuses for these kids. There's no excuse for taking somebody, tying them up, and torturing them for hours. And I was reading, more as more of these things come out. And like you said, more's probably going to come out by the time this airs. But they were texting the kids' parents saying, we have him, like basically like they were going to ransom this kid. And, you say, well, okay, what's the cause? Again, the story revealed that the white kid met with these black kids. He was friends with one of them. They got in some argument, apparently. And the kids then tied him up and started beating him and kicking him and all this. So these kids are friends, apparently, as far as we knew. And then it takes them like that to turn on him. Apparently, they're violent to begin with, from other stories I've read. But to turn on him and then post this video online saying, this is because you're a Trump supporter. This is for Trump, F white people, F Trump. I blame this all on, sorry to come back around to it, I blame this all on Hillary Clinton. I blame it on the Democrats, because listen to this, man. The left has been pushing all this insane rhetoric around Donald Trump, basically painting anybody with a very wide brush that's white, that's a male, that's a Trump supporter. You don't even have to be a Trump supporter, really, just white males. They said, white males are to blame for Trump getting elected. So they've been going for the last, 6 months, painting anybody as horrible people, as voters, as evil bigots, as quote unquote deplorables, and lowering them below liberals, lowering the standards on these people where I'm sure these idiot kids are like, this person's he's not even human, subhuman. So they don't feel so bad torturing him because he's not on their level. He's not even considered human because of all this rhetoric from Democrats, the supposed kinder, gentler Democrats that we see out here. This is their fault.
Yeah, I think you're right on a couple levels there. I mean, obviously, the Democrats did stoke the flames here. But if you look at the city of Chicago, it's been ruled by Democrats for how long? And they're controlling the public school system in Chicago. And like you were saying before, these kids are not held accountable. You have the CNN host, Don Lemon, saying, well, look at their terrible upbringings. We got to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure these kids are told during school the same thing happens. They fail a test. They get into a fight at school. We can't come down hard on these kids right now. They've had a tough life.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to have some consequences here, or you're not going to learn your lesson. This is why you have so many people getting shot every weekend in Chicago. Over Christmas weekend, like 100 people got shot. It's insane.
Yeah, exactly right, man. And it's like they're explaining it away. They have all these programs to help them and excuse them and all this other shit. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen to these kids. They're charged with a quote unquote hate crime, which I despise that term. It's a crime. I don't care why you did it. You did it. It's a crime. You tied somebody up. You tortured them. It doesn't matter if it was for racial reasons or not. It's just a crime. So let's leave off the hate speech, because you brought this up too. All these commenters saying, "Oh, well, if this was white kids torturing a black kid, it would have been even worse." And it would have been. It would have been a huge thing. It would have been labeled as a Trumpist act. You know that for a fact. And it deflects from the basic center of the question. It's just, why are these kids think that they can do this in the first place? And it gets back to your point.
And this isn't, I would obviously be, and you would be as well, equally upset, equally enraged if it was reversed.
Of course.
And it was a bunch of white kids torturing a black kid, which, we've seen even more horrible things where that one teenager down in South Carolina a couple of years ago went into a black church and shot a bunch of black people. Yeah. So, there's racial problems all over this country, but I don't think labeling these things hate crimes really helps to prevent them.
No, all it does is, it gives people an added benefit to, I guess, a benefit in air quotes, is you can put people away for longer because it comes with an added bonus penalty because it's a hate crime instead of just a regular crime. But, it doesn't deter anybody.
Yeah,
that's clear. If you're going to go out, if you hate somebody legitimately and you're going to go do something to them, you're going to do it. It doesn't matter what the penalty is. If you're willing to torture somebody, tie them up, or shoot somebody, go into a church and shoot people, saying, hey, think about that first. It might be a hate crime. No one's stopping to think. The only people that get affected by hate crimes are the people that do something that is not really a hate crime, but then get added with extra 5-10 years of jail time on top of it.
Right. Yeah, it's doing nothing to help. And we can kind of transition right into this other sort of interesting study I wanted to talk about. It was actually, they did this study in Chicago. It was a sociologist, Andrew Papachristos, Andrew Papagiorgio, we'll call him.
winning all those cars in Vegas.
Yeah.
No one will get that.
What movie was that? What movie was that?
That was from Vegas Vacation, man.
Vegas Vacation. Oh, that's a classic, man. Yeah. I got to watch that again.
I won the money.
Classic movie. But anyway, this Andrew Papagiorgio, he's a Yale guy. He's doing the study on gunshots and arrest data in Chicago, covering the years between 2006 and 2014. The researchers focused in on 138,000 odd people that they considered part of a large social network. They kind of tell you a little bit about what they mean by that. What this was is that it was based on people that were arrested together. And this network represented about 30% of the total of those arrested during that time. And of that number, almost 10,000 were involved in 11,000 of the gun violence incidents, both fatal and non-fatal. And the researchers ran different models, trying to see if there were correlations or if they could link anything together here over time. And they took into account, the age of the people involved, their sex, things like that. And eventually, they ran demographic models on it. And then they ran a model that mimicked infectious diseases. They don't give a lot of background on how the model worked or anything. I don't think I would understand it in the first place, coming from Yale. But anyway,
the findings from it is the Yale of the the middle East Coast. Let's not forget that.
It's the Yale of central Pennsylvania.
Exactly.
I think that's what. Because
I guess Yale is the Yale of the central East Coast. That's fine.
Exactly. So the findings here were that this flu model that they used explained, or they were able to sort of forecast through time as they ran the model, 63% of the shootings. Now, just reading this, it seems kind of ridiculous. But when you start to think about it, it kind of makes sense. As people get shot, they're exposed to violence. If you think about drug dealers, maybe one drug dealer has never, they've never had to, use violence. And we talk about a lot on this show with the drug trade being illegal with prohibition. Drug dealers can't go to courts to settle disputes. So that introduces violence into it. So if you look at it from that aspect of it, maybe a drug dealer had never used violence, then one of the people that's working for him on the street gets shot. So then all of a sudden he's thinking, well, I need to respond to that. So he shoots somebody else. So you can kind of see how this could kind of makes sense. I'm not sure if you can actually find any prescriptions from knowing this, but I don't know. Did you buy this model?
I thought this whole study was one of the dumbest things I've ever read. And the reason why is, you talk about it, they're doing a study where they're like, well, we looked at people that got arrested together. And then, but the craziest thing happened. These people that got arrested together committing the same crimes or were in the same gangs or were caught doing drugs or robbing people together. Go figure. You know what? They had a higher percentage getting shot. And it turns out they get shot more than random people that didn't get shot before get shot. It's like, again, he says what I said. The whole model is based upon the fact that these are people that are already predisposed. They are in criminal environments that have been arrested, or they are in environments, which is a very small percentage of Chicago. It's like 5% because I was reading lower on. It's like 5% of the population of Chicago makes up this whole group plus. So you've got these people that, of course, it's going to spread like an infectious disease just because they know each other. And you already hit the one comment. If you're a drug dealer and somebody gets shot, you're going to retaliate. If you're arrested for committing a violent crime, most likely you're going to be in harm's way. You're probably likely to get shot. If you're arrested for armed robbery, maybe somebody's shooting back for you, or you're petty, or you're breaking and entering and you get shot. I mean, the study itself, it just is so stupid to me.
Yeah, I do agree with you. Now that you've opened my eyes to it, it's pretty ridiculous.
It's utterly ridiculous.
It is.
And they'll probably try to use this to make an anti-gun case.
It's not totally useless, but there is one part that is totally useless. I don't know if you saw this one part of it at the end talking about an incubation period where they looked at, comparing it to the time, when someone gets sick,
like
when they get sneezed on,
or something
to when they actually get sick.
Yeah.
So when somebody actually, is involved in some way or witnesses some sort of gun violence until they're involved again or until they get arrested, until they shoot somebody, it's 125 days. So.
And after that point, you're in the clear, though. That's the good news, guys.
Yeah. So you get to 126 days, you're good.
Yeah,
you're good.
Don't worry. It reminds me of The Fifth Element. Fantastic film, by the way. Where they got Bruce Willis. He's carting Mila Jovovich around, which he's got those the bandages around her body. And the cops are chasing him. And he goes, "Oh, don't worry. After 5 blocks, if they don't chase you, they're not going to chase you." And then he turns the corner, and then there's cops there. It's kind of probably the same thing. It's like, you're 125 days. I made it. And you turn around the corner, and Johnny Jugslinger shoots you in the face. That's retribution. But still, yeah,
exactly.
It's an interesting enough model. The model makes sense. Don't get me wrong. I don't question the methods. I'm sure that what they found is accurate. But again, if you're looking at that portion of the population and those specific circumstances, they're not even looking at the broader just people in a area. They're looking at specifically people that have already been arrested and people that have been shot committing crimes.
Yeah, it's kind of with data, you can sort of make it say whatever you want it to say. Like I posted an article in the forum this past week. When you're hearing this, it'll be last week. So if you're not in the forum, get in the forum so you get these articles right away. But the article was talking about, it was published on Yahoo. So some idiot on Yahoo submitted it and wrote it. And what it was talking about was I think it was in Colorado, talking about where they have legal recreational marijuana, how there's been an increase in stomach pain, stomach viruses. And they think it might be related to people smoking marijuana, but there's really nothing linking the two. Right. It just so happens that the amount of people going to clinics with stomach pain went up at the same time that marijuana was legalized. So they're assuming that they're linked together, but they're not sure.
Because of what they're eating they're eating edibles, and they're not used to the weed and the oil in there. Like there's no correlation. And then they said, what, you can go in the bathtub and sit in the hot water and it goes away.
Yeah, that's the cure. You just you drink some fluids and you take a hot shower and you're good.
Yeah, but of course, no, we're presuming it's like that is the Russians hacked our election of weed studies, I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
No evidence, but yeah. So
that fiasco.
Rico and I discussed that on the first Electric Liberty Land a little bit, just how ridiculous it is. Although they did a hearing.
What's the link to that first Electric Liberty Land?
Oh, it's lionsofliberty.com/ELL1. The ELL stands for Electric Liberty Land.
Also spells eel if you're keeping track at home.
Oh, it spells L.
I guess it wouldn't spell eel. How do you spell eel? Eel is 2 E's.
Yeah, eel is 2 E's and 1 L.
Man, that's a weird word, eel. Huh.
It spells bell if you add a B. All right, moving on. Yeah, so I'm just terrified that they're going to somehow, progressives are going to latch on to this story and somehow, some way say, well, no, you see, it's, because guns. Because, there's guns out there and people who have guns, they're going to shoot other people with guns. So just wait for it because it's coming.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for this to be used, as a backdrop to some legislation that's going to solve the problem of gun violence in Chicago. But
it'll be another, hey, don't let criminals have guns bill. They always work.
Exactly.
Criminals always obey the law.
You just got to keep the people who are always breaking the law from having guns because they're not going to break the law to get guns.
Right. It's obvious.
So let's move on here to a positive story. I think a very positive story out of Vermont. Vermont governor, who unfortunately is leaving office. He left on January 5th. Vermont Governor Peter Shumlin. He issued a bunch of pardons to people who had some minor pot crimes, minor pot offenses, 192 to be exact. And this started, several months ago, or maybe at least a year ago. He's been urging people for a while who've been convicted of these minor offenses to submit through the process, to get their pardons because in 2013 marijuana was decriminalized. Possession of marijuana was decriminalized, and it is a medical marijuana state. I guess it's not officially a recreational legal state, which it might be better just to be decriminalized than to be officially legal in many ways. But anyway, this is an awesome thing. The only question I have on this is, what took this guy so long? Why do you wait until his last day in office?
Yeah, good question. That's what I'm wondering with what Obama. I'm still hoping Obama's going to make some big move on pot legalization, but still to come. He's got a couple weeks to do it. But yeah, I know. What took him so long? Why is he waiting until the end? Because he's afraid of repercussions from all the people angry about non-violent offenders being let out of prison on minor charges. But Odie, I guess.
What's he afraid? He's going to get flooded with phone calls?
Yeah, right.
I mean, can he just not pay attention to it?
Exactly. I've been calling all the time and people don't pay attention to me.
Yeah.
But I will bring up one thing, man, that I agree. Great story. But then I'm reading through, and I notice one little thing. I noticed a line that said certain people did not get pardons that had minor convictions for pot crimes. And those included people with a violent criminal past, which, all right, more understandable there, but also people that were convicted of driving under the influence or reckless driving. They didn't get pardons. And that, to me, is a whole load of hornswoggle.
I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. I think, well, first of all, I mean, there's a whole different debate we could have, and I think we should have in this show at some point. Maybe we'll bring on a couple people to talk about it, to talk about DUIs and driving under the influence and the best way to handle it and how it would be handled in a more free society. But with that being said, a DUI, a DWI does not carry the same stigma with it as a lot of people still have with drugs, with marijuana, with cocaine, with heroin, whatever. That's not to say that everything should be equal, everything should have the same stigma or whatever. But I think what this governor was trying to do is, in his mind, obviously marijuana unjustifiably has the stigma associated with it and has been dragging all these people down for all these years. And that's why he did the pardon.
But agreed. But
that's what I got from it.
But shouldn't he also see then extending that, if he knows there's an unfair stigma associated with marijuana, he should be able to see that there's also an unfair stigma associated with people getting arrested for driving under the influence of marijuana, which studies have been done where it doesn't really affect you at all. It affects you far less than alcohol does when you're driving a car.
Oh, I thought you meant that they were driving under the influence of alcohol.
It just said driving under the influence, because if you can get pulled over and you can get arrested and given and cited for this exact thing for driving under the influence of any narcotic or any illegal substance, basically.
Yeah, but that's pretty difficult. There's not a breathalyzer test for it. They have to take a blood test, right. And I'm not even sure if marijuana shows up in your blood when you're. I guess it definitely will be in your blood when you're high on it.
Well, in your hair.
It might be in your blood for a longer period of time.
Yeah. Than blood for that.
I know it stays in urine. It can stay in your urine for like a month if you smoke a lot.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not sure what they tested. I just personally, when I read that line, it just really pissed me off, because also, look, if somebody got arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol, okay, that sucks. You got a drunk driving arrest, or if that's on your past, that could have been any time in the past, by the way, too. I'm not sure. And it said, I'm not sure if they were convicted of these things at the same time or not, or if this is something where in the past they had a drunk driving and then they got arrested for a minor pot conviction. But still,
true.
You're not going to pardon them because of that. Maybe they had a drunk driving arrest 3 years in the past and now they're in for minor pot possession. And you're like, no, sorry, buddy. Remember when you drove drunk, you had one too many? Sorry, you're in jail for the next 5 years.
When you have the pardon pen out, you just keep on writing.
Damn well right, man. So that was the other thing. Overall, again, agreed, overall a good thing. But that one line just pissed me off.
That's a good catch. That is a good catch. This next story we're going to play here, America's fastest growing game show. Is this a crime? And should anyone do time for that crime? And this first one, I can't wait to hear your response to it, because this is a ridiculous story.
I know it's what you're gonna say. Well, actually, they're both ridiculous.
They're both awesome. I'm looking forward to talking about both of these just because they're so insane. But so this is out of Arkansas, or Arkansas, as they say there. I think maybe they don't, but I like to think they do.
To say it personally. I'm with you, man.
There's a judge there by the name of Tim Parker who was forced to resign, maybe not forced to resign, but maybe resigned out of shame in the final days of his term a month ago in December. And what happened was it came to light with a little investigation by the judicial board there that he had been exchanging with women who had been charged with crime. He had been exchanging their freedom, letting them get away, giving them leniency in exchange for prescription pills or sexual favors. And what he'd been doing is he'd been pretty blatant about it. If these women were in jail, he was calling them and having conversations with them over the prison phone there. He was texting with family members of the victims. I guess texting and leaving voicemails, just crazy stuff. So I'm pretty sure this story is going to come back more, maybe with some charges against this judge here, because the Arkansas Judicial Discipline and Disability Commission, the JDDC, they don't have the jurisdiction actually, press any charges, but they have passed this over to the DA, I believe they said. But anyway, just a crazy story, but I got to know from you, is this a crime, and should this judge do time for exchanging for sex and for pills, giving people freedom?
There's so many levels to this. I mean, as a whole, women should be able to do what they want with their bodies anyway. So, hey, if that was part of the system as a setup, I'd say go for it. But is it a crime? Yes, it is. It's a huge abuse of power. He's clearly taking advantage of people that are at the mercy of the system. He should go and do some jail time. And who knows, maybe another judge can get him out and he can do some sexual favors. But I think, it's an abuse of power. I mean, look, it's coercive government in micro. It's like a vagina tax to get out of jail. If you don't want to pay it, you stay in jail. If you want to pay the vagina tax, sure, you get let out of jail. This is just this guy using his coercive government influence on a small scale. That being said, hey, would I take it in a heartbeat if I was sitting in jail? Yes. Yes, I would. Now, the other thing to think about, too, is clearly these chicks, if you can get them out of jail this easily, they are clearly in jail for minor crimes like drug offenses. So they shouldn't even be in that situation to begin with.
Probably. They didn't really mention any of the crimes that these women have been charged with, but it sure seems that way. But if they're being held in prison and there's a bond associated with it, it has to be at least, some sort of crime with a little bit behind it. I'm not saying these people
were multiple times or something like that, where they're like,
that's true. That's true.
By the way, speaking of Arkansas, did you read the rest of this article where this isn't the first time this has happened?
I did see that. I didn't dive into that, though. So do you have more on that?
It's just so funny. I just had to bring it up because it's too funny. So apparently there was another judge who was, I don't know if he's openly gay or if he's married and secretly gay, but a male judge did this earlier with males in the system where he would get them out in exchange for new photos, and he got to give them a paddling. Like, did some drugs and went to prison? That's a paddling. And that was what he would exchange, and he got arrested.
Is it wrong to say that that's such an Arkansas story?
It is so Arkansanian.
Both stories are, really.
So funny.
You think about it.
So good. But yes, I say it's a crime. What about you?
Oh, it's absolutely a crime. The first thing this reminded me of was before I did the Felony Friday show here, we had on the podcast, I wrote a column. And there were all kinds of crazy stories I wrote about. And there was one, I think it was out of Oklahoma. And there was a cop who was doing the same thing, just doing it right on the street from his patrol car, who was, pulling women over, sometimes for doing nothing wrong, and basically, handing them a ticket and saying, "Oh, I'll rip this up if you give me a blowjob."
Like the movie Crash.
He did this like 30 or 40 women. It was a huge scandal. He was convicted a couple months ago, but I'll link to it in the show notes. But it made me think of that. But yeah, it's the same idea as that. It's someone using their power to lord over the community and take advantage of people. And it's disgusting. It's terrible. It's unacceptable. And I hope that this judge spends some time in prison. I sure hope he does. And moving on to the last story of the day, I actually I saw this story. I follow a former guest of Felony Friday, Warren Redlick, his Facebook page, Fair DUI. He's always posting some interesting stories on there. And I saw this story. I had to talk about it. It's a man named Ferrari, his last name Ferrari, loses his Ferrari to civil forfeiture from a DWI case in New York. I mean, the title itself is ridiculous, but when you get into the story, like at first you're feeling bad for this guy, and I still do feel bad for him after everything, but this guy's an animal. He's crazy. He was pulled over going like 100 miles per hour. He was intoxicated. He was all pilled up. He had like 9 different prescription drugs in him, something like that. He had a crack pipe on him.
And crack cocaine.
He's driving over 100 miles per hour in his Ferrari. Gets pulled over, obviously, gets arrested and everything. They impound the car. They take it from him. And they're retaining the car. They won't let him get it back. He actually did win in appeals court. He won one appeal. And he won a $95,000 ruling. But then that was overturned later by the Second U.S. District Court of Appeals. And it's still ridiculous that they're taking this guy's property away and not compensating him for it. And the long and short that I got from reading it is the reason they're doing that is because he can't be trusted with a Ferrari. Like it's too dangerous, and he would just destroy it. He would be a menace to society, really. So they took it away from him, and that's what the court ruled. And there is there's a law on the books in the state of New York. There is a civil forfeiture law that backs this, that they are allowed to do this. So my question for you, Brian, is in a case exactly like this, where somebody is this out of control, or seemingly this out of control, maybe he's, got help and he's normal now. Should they be able to just take somebody's car, take their Ferrari?
No, hell no, they shouldn't. And I say that knowing, reading more about this case. I read the long version that you sent me. The guy had a lot of priors too, driving while intoxicated, driving without a license, driving all this stuff. God, I wouldn't know where he got his money from. But no, they should not be able to take his car away.
This guy needs an Instagram account.
Oh my God. He needs his own reality show. Are you kidding me? I'd watch it every weekend. It'd be amazing. Give him his own. He could be on Electric Liberty Land as a co-host.
There you go.
It's amazing. So, I know he's driving around high speeds, yada, yada. But no, you should not be able to take his car away. Even though if you put a BS law on the books, specifically, it's literally they wrote it just for DWIs. That it said that they can take your car away so that it's a deterrent. That's the thing. Oh, it's a big deterrent, just like hate crime laws. Oh, it's a deterrent. And I'm sure that everybody that has a DUI is thinking, oh, well, my car's going to get taken away because of this forfeiture if I drive drunk once. No, idiotic. They should not be able to do it. Nothing should warrant a seizure of a property, especially a car like that, which is like $300,000. Unless you can prove that it's gained through illicit means by harming somebody else or something like that, where on its own, it's a crime to have the car because it was gotten.
Right. If he obtained it illegally through fraud,
if it's stolen, if it's something, if it's fraud, then okay, then you can take it away. But no, you can't take it away just because you want to deter him from driving drunk. So now you get to sell a $300,000 vehicle and keep the money for the state. And also, you mentioned, okay, it's a deterrent. I read some more stuff. It's like they took it away from because they were worried he would sell it or destroy it. Now, I don't even think they mean he'll destroy it driving it. I think they mean like he'll destroy it so it's not evidence or something. And it's like, oh, who gives a damn? If you're going to steal it anyway from him, why do you care if he's going to destroy it? And he can't destroy it anyway, as if it's evidence, you're going to have it. Or sell it. Let him sell it. Who cares?
Yeah, that part, that didn't make sense to me at all.
It made no sense. And that's like the legal mumbo jumbo too. I'm like, in what way can you interpret that?
Yeah, if anyone wants to read the full case here, it's first of all, it's worth it to read this guy's history. It's insane. But there's some stuff in there. If there's any lawyers listening and you want to chime in and give your opinion, you could actually, you can join the Lions of Liberty Forum. Like we talked about before, you go on Facebook, search bar at the top, Lions of Liberty Forum, join it. We'll get you approved and you give your opinion and we'll talk about it in the forum. That'd be great. Or if you don't want to do that, you can shoot me an email, felonyfriday@lionsofliberty.com, and give me your opinion on this case. I'd like to hear from somebody in legal land what they think about this. And if there's something that Brian and I are missing, it could be possible we're missing something.
You never know. Stranger things have happened.
It's happened maybe once, maybe once or twice. But anyway, that's all we got for today, Brian. I want to thank you for coming back on the show. This was fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, and thank you for being on Electric Liberty Land. You were amazing on the second ever episode of ELL, which is, of course, it's a current event show. We do a little funny stuff, talk about current events and all that good jazz with Odie here and a bunch of other friends. So if you missed that, easy to find. Just go back, lionsofliberty.com/ELL2, and you'll get to hear John's melodious tones.
Absolutely. That was a lot of fun on that show. It was a blast. And you can find all of the archives of all Lions of Liberty podcasts at lionsofliberty.com/podcast. And if you don't want to worry about, going to our website and finding the episodes, you can subscribe on iTunes or subscribe through a plethora of other podcasting apps. But if you do subscribe to our iTunes, even if you don't, we really would appreciate it. Please stop by, give us a 5-star rating, leave us a review. It really helps us so much with the crazy iTunes algorithm that'll help to get us up the charts and will help us to reach more people. So please, we really would appreciate that. And also, of course, you can help us to grow the show by following us on Facebook, facebook.com/Lions of Liberty, twitter.com/Lions of Liberty, following us and sharing our stuff, sharing it with your friends and your network. We appreciate that very much. That's all I got for today. This show was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to it. This is John Odermetz signing off. Always remember to keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.